Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fun and Games Podcast. I'm Geoff Moonen.
And I'm Matt A.K. Stormageddon.
And you're listening to episode 112. And this episode, we have a return guest, voice actor extraordinaire Yuri Lowenthal, because he has been very busy recently. Yuri, welcome back.
Thank you for having me back. I'm excited to be here.
Yuri, we're so excited to have you. And I love that in the last episode, you were like, I wish that there's stuff I want to tell you about, but I can't yet. And then literally within weeks, like one thing after another drops. And it's like, yes. So I wanted to start by talking about what it feels like to now be voicing another iconic character, I assume, from your childhood. Because for those who haven't seen, there is a reboot of the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe series coming in a similar way to that the She-Ra series did years ago. We have something brand new from the ground up. And you are playing Prince Adam and He-Man. That's huge.
Yeah, it really is. And while I wasn't like the hugest He-Man fan at the time in the 80s, that mythology is so steeped in everything that it is it's ridiculous. And let's just say that it's still important enough to me that when I was recording this show, and I had to say, by the power of Grayskull, I have the power. I was so nervous. I mean, there were a few. I'm so glad that they took the best of what we did, because I know there's somewhere my voice just broke in the middle of that, or I'm like, oh no, that wasn't He-manly enough. Let me try again, and then I would still get the chills afterwards, and I couldn't believe it was actually happening. So, yeah, no, it's. Like I said, while I wasn't, a super fan, it's huge. Like anything iconic like that, from that time, or honestly any other time. It's just, I still can't believe it's true.
And you're working with some iconic cast members too. Kimberly Brooks, who's done everything. Tom Kenny, Fred Tatasciore, like all of these incredible voice actors. Yeah. I mean, how much did you know about the cast when you got cast as He-Man? Did you know who some of the other folks were already, or
not until I walked into the room?
Really?
Which is always exciting. And and I will say that while we did record, a certain amount of the episodes, through the pandemic, we did start before it hit. Mm-hmm. So we did have a couple of sessions with the full cast in the room before things changed. And then we were, thankfully able to continue recording through the pandemic, which, was just a boon for all of us. But it is a very impressive room. And I will say it's split between people you've heard before who are amazing and people who you might not know as well, who after this show are probably going to be, huge stars. I mean, like the talent in there is huge. I mean, you may not know the name Ben Diskin, despite the fact that he won an Emmy a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he's done a lot, but he's never the name that comes up when people talk about these.
But his Skeletor, I mean, he's genius. And it's delightful to watch him. But his Skeletor is the reason to watch the show, says He-Man. And like Judy Alice Lee, who plays Ram Mam, who plays Crass.
Yeah,
she's so good.
Yes, she is. I'm surprised she hasn't done more.
Well, you will. It's happening for her. Good. Don't you worry. Good. Anthony Del Rio is just so great. I mean, like everybody's great. Everybody's great. And it's one of those Roger Craig Smith and Greg Griffin and all just so great. So much of the fun for me and so much of is this going to be a great experience? Sure, getting to voice an iconic, but that's great. But it's the people you're in the room with. Mm-hmm. Even if you're not physically in the room with them sometimes. And that was a good room. I will say it was such a good room, and good in quotes, that sometimes it took us a little longer to get through things than it should have, because we were like, But it was it's great. It was a great little family, and fun to, fun and scary to reinvent something so iconic, because, you run the risk when you reinvent something like this, or you reboot something like this, you just open the doors to the haters, from, everybody who has grown up with this and loved it. And honestly, I was worried about it in that it didn't, I don't think it didn't affect our performance.
Right.
But I was waiting for it. And I'm sort of a little bit surprised and happy to say that that sort of giant wave of hate. Now, I don't go on Reddit, so maybe it exists there, because it always exists on Reddit.
Yeah, right.
But I was surprised at how many of the early reviews that I read that people were like, I was going into this expecting A, that it was just for kids, or B, that it was just going to be terrible, and came out loving it. So, I'm hoping that that's sort of a trend, because I think it's great. And it's my kid and I watched the first 10 episodes. I got sort of like a pre-screener, and he loved it. And now we've got toys, and I mean, it's so beautiful, and like the music's great. I mean, I'm just happy that we
What
finally
is
get
it
to talk
like to
about it.
have no shortage of action figures of yourself between Spider-Man and now Adam and
Oh my
the
God.
Naruto characters? Like, you could just fill a action figure shelf of just you.
Well, as somebody who grew up collecting toys and continues at in his adulthood to collect toys, it is awesome. But still, you'll always just hear me complaining about, why didn't they do toys for that thing? Like, when I was on Legion of Superheroes, which just celebrated its 15th anniversary,
Exactly.
Yeah.
which means I've been doing this for a while, and I'm old. But they were. Yeah, that show was the cancellation of that show was from a bunch of things out of control of the show. It had nothing to do with the show, and I was sad to not make any more of that. And I was extra sad because I had seen the prototypes for the action figures we were going to get for that show, and then we never got them, and that always
bummer.
stung.
That is disappointing.
Yeah, but maybe, I don't know, maybe they'll put it out on HBO Max. I know they finally released the Blu-ray for that series, but maybe they'll put it on HBO Max, and it'll become this underground, this sort of runaway.
They'll have a renaissance.
So many years later. Exactly, and maybe they'll make more.
Wouldn't be the
Stranger
first time
things
that's
have happened.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, I forgot that you also iconically played Superman. Like, you just collect iconic characters like people collect action figures, and it's pretty great.
I am very fortunate.
It's taking collecting to a new level. That's all it is.
Exactly. I gotta be different. You guys.
No, really, they're my characters, okay? Now, do you ever play with these action figures of yourself with your kid, and do you ever voice them?
I wouldn't let him touch my action figures. No, that's terrible. What a terrible thing to say.
I had to ask the line there. Sometimes
It is
sometimes.
right. It is somewhat true. I tend to try to buy multiples of things these days, so that I can put one up on my shelf, and one he gets to destroy. Although I will say, maybe I'm getting a little soft in my old age, but yeah, I just ordered these. They released the first sort of 3 action figures for He-Man. It's a He-Man, Skeletor, and Man-at-Arms.
Yeah.
And I just got one set, and I opened them with and I gave them to him to play with, and I figure once he gets tired of that, then I'll put it up on my shelf. And they seem sturdy enough, honestly, for me to be able to do that. Like, I don't think. Of course, now that I've said that, he's just going to find some way to wreck them. But
I mean, to be fair, I had He-Man toys growing up, and I know the 80s was absolutely the merchandise toy-driven mecca for all of this. And, looking back, no, those were not sturdy toys. The only reason my Cringer survived as long as he did was because he was all one piece. The Battle Cat stuff just disintegrated. And nowadays, there's actually better construction. I have a friend who is an avid collector, and I'm always just so odd that I guess I grew up in the 80s. I'm in my 30s now, so a lot of the folks who grew up then are now no, we have to make the toys better, and we all benefit.
Right. I think that stretches across all of us who were young nerds, then grew up and still had to have jobs, and some of us went into the toy industry. Some of us went into the film industry. Some of us, so you get better cartoons and movies about superheroes and toys that work better. I mean, with the exception of some very important things, I think we're living in possibly the best timeline.
Yeah.
You got to find those positive things. And I understand that also probably some of the worry of how people would see this new He-Man show. A, there's another He-Man show that's out. And B, it's something that there really hasn't been much in the way of Masters of the Universe properties in a good long while. And the show that you play, He-Man, is more of a reboot and a retool. How much lore dumping, or how much of okay, we need to keep to this or do this, or you need to be informed about this is why we're doing it, on your end, on the cast end? How much did that have to?
we had so much of that was already, set with, the writers and, what they were going to do. And from what I can tell, it seems like they had pretty free reign to, I don't know exactly what they were told they had to keep, but it seems like they had pretty free reign to recreate a lot of that stuff. But also, like I said, because they all grew up on that, there were definitely things they wanted in there. And they were definitely wanted to leave, little Easter eggs for people that the kids, who are just experiencing it for the first time won't get, but their parents might.
Yeah.
And, an opportunity to change things in a way that makes it better. Like I have the power to, we have the power to, him being able to share the power with his whole team is really a cool development, and something that I think is really nice.
Oh yeah, and it gives everybody a little bit of room to fiddle and play. I've watched the first 2 episodes because I try not to binge shows anymore, so I'm taking it in doses. And
well done.
It's the only way I can.
And who has the time?
Only way I can survive. But I think it was the first episode when you get that wonderful fake out of you start with I have no idea.
Yes.
And
it
got me.
Yeah.
And you couldn't do that then. Now and for kids, it's a cute joke. And for the parents, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah. Right. And it is gorgeous. Like the
animation is lovely.
The animation is, it's candy. It's just the transformation sequences are just, and they did like what I really enjoyed about the updated Thunderbirds Are Go on Prime that came out a few years ago, which is a fucking terrific show. And another show that I just watched all the episodes with my kid is they get that every episode we're going to have to do this transformation thing. And they change up the edit. They did it with Thunderbirds Are Go with the launch sequences. And I noticed they did it with this too. It's mostly the same, but not quite. And so every time there's a little something different so that it's not, just constantly the exact, recycled edit and animation as before, which is great and very impressive in my opinion.
Yeah. I love returning to shows like this. Like I mentioned She-Ra also earlier because it's hard to not, right? Like these are 2 classics from our youth that are now being reborn in brilliant ways that I think make them better and improve upon the lore that existed already. And like my dream is that you get to do a crossover at some point with Noelle Stevenson's She-Ra. Like
that would be amazing. Yeah.
I want to see one of you cross into the other universe and change into that animation form. Like,
yes.
I love when shows do that. Like that.
Hold on, taking notes.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Like they listen to me about anything.
Oh my God. Like, and it's funny when She-Ra came out, and I also remembered that, like, yes, I did grow up watching some of this, that much like Transformers and Thundercats, that I realized I didn't remember nearly as much about those shows as I thought I did. Having been 30 years since I've seen them, and looking into when She-Ra came out, which I loved, the legal minefield that is Masters of the Universe, and I thought Marvel was bad.
Yeah.
So I mean, fingers
to be
crossed,
clear,
I
really
would love it. I would love it, but
yeah.
I do want to shift the conversation a little bit towards video games, as there has been. So first, I want to say it's funny that you work with Kimberly Brooks on He-Man because you also indirectly work with Kimberly Brooks on Psychonauts 2, which I have now played because she plays one of the Psychonauts, and you play Raz's, let's say, less than kind, aloof brother.
It was, it was hard. Luckily, I have a good rapport with the voice director, Chris Brown, who I would go to into the fires of hell for if she asked me to. He's kind of a dick.
He's kind of a dick, but charming in his way. I love those moments. And I told you this on the last episode we recorded, but like I'm playing Psychonauts 2, which I was falling in love with. I love the original. I love Tim Schafer's team. Like I've been playing those kinds of games for ages. And like I meet the family and I hear his brother talk, Dion, and I go, I know that voice. I know that guy. And it's always fun. And I mean, that's such an incredibly all-star laden voice cast too, How did you come into Psychonauts? Because Psychonauts is an established franchise. Did they come to you? Is that something you auditioned for? Like, I'm curious.
No, it was some, I think it was a combination of things. It was something I auditioned for, but I had worked with Chris, who directs the performances for, has worked with Tim for forever. We first worked together on Brutal Legend.
Yes.
That was when we met and fell in love with each other, basically. Like, it's when two kindred spirits find each other and we're like, oh, let's try to do this as often as possible.
Yeah.
And that was the first time we'd worked together, and we've worked together several times since then. And, and Psychonauts was a property where I thought that's something really cool. It was before my time. I'll never get a chance to be a part of that family.
Right.
I'll never get a chance to, experience that from a professional standpoint. And then you get to see that happened to me with Robotech. Like, I grew up watching Robotech, and I'm like, but they're not making any more of that. And then I got to be in a Robotech movie.
Yeah.
That they and it was just like, so great. It's like getting to play those iconic things, getting to work in the world that I grew up loving is, something, is just a constant joy. So when this came up, it was really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the elephant in the room, as it were, something that we hinted at the previous episode. But
we can talk about
very
this
little,
much.
this little bit. But obviously, your friends at Insomniac have been very busy, and at the last state of play, they announced Spider-Man 2, which we all knew was coming.
Sure, but it's nice to be able to say, yes, it's happening. That's about all I can say. But
Right.
But it is still nice to be able to not to have to pretend like, oh man, you don't know who knows? Maybe there'll be, maybe not. I don't know.
That'd be so great.
Yeah.
You can skip the first inch of the NDA now. Now you've got another 3 feet of it.
Right, exactly.
But it's really exciting. And of course, in the trailer, they reveal Venom, who we knew was coming if you've played the previous games. Voiced by the legendary Tony Todd.
Oh.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. When I heard that, I was like, of course. And then, they played me what they had recorded, sort of. I don't think it was his audition, but I think, once they had him, they had recorded some stuff so that we could use, stuff for the trailer. And I was just like, yeah, what? Of course. And a lot of people read for that. And then, of course, it is also exciting because I had just worked with Tony for the first time on Dota Dragon's Blood, the Netflix series.
Yeah.
And here we are again. It's like, I guess this is a thing now. And I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Because I've been a fan of Tony's for a long time.
It's not a bad thing.
Unbelievable.
No,
He's one of those castings that you're like, you don't think of it. And then when you hear it, you go, of course.
You're like,
why?
of course.
Absolutely. He's perfect for that. Yeah. I am so excited for this game. I've told you in the previous episode, like, I think that the Spider-Man and the Miles Morales games are both some of the best Spider-Man storytelling. And I'm just excited to see what, like, you're in the Miles game a little bit, and Miles is in the first game a little bit. But like this game, you're both Spider-Man. It's clearly you're both going to be an important part of the story on some level. Like, I'm excited to see that interaction. And I know you can't probably talk a lot about the story and stuff quite yet, but it must be exciting to be able to continue to live in this world and now like explore the possibilities of, Venom and Miles as a hero and even more villains, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to see and to say that, that the first game was great, the second game was great, and they're still finding ways to make it greater. I know the hashtag was be greater from that first game, but they're still finding ways to do that and to do exciting things. It's not, let's just say it's not just going to be any kind of retread.
I'd love to hear it.
I had no doubt.
Yeah. Also exciting, Insomniac announced a game for my favorite character.
I saw you shifted your background. A minute ago we could sort of see your there it is.
Yeah, my Wolverine shelf.
Yeah.
That none of the listeners can see. I've loved Wolverine for a long time, and like, of course, the legendary Stephen Bloom has been Wolverine in so many things, and I'm fingers crossed hoping he will get to voice him again in this upcoming game. But if they bring someone new in to take over, like, that would be cool too, to see someone else jump at it. But my first thought was, oh my god, Insomniac does Spider-Man. They're doing Wolverine. Will we get
I didn't even know I didn't even know that until like right before. I was like, wait, what? What? Yeah.
It's
and
so
I love
exciting.
that little teaser they have. I mean, I just sort of sat in front, looking at his back at the bar, just like, I mean, I'm sure people on the internet did it much better than me. enhanced, and then sort of identifying little things. But I was just staring there. I was like, I could spend this whole game probably just sitting at the bar, which of course would be ridiculous because you're Wolverine. But yeah, no, I can't wait for that one either. I can't wait to see what Insomniac does with it, because clearly they're good at this. And B, what parts of the lore that we love are they bringing into it?
Yeah.
There's so many stories.
And literally anything.
Across all kinds of genres. Like, do you want it to be a Yakuza game? Like, you can do that. Just put him in Madripoor and you're fine.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of want the whole thing to take place in Japan. I don't, the
Wolverine Samurai game is something that I need in my life now that this has been spoken in the last 30 seconds.
Yes, thank you. And yes, I would 100% play the hell out of that game.
400 hours. I've already pre-ordered it.
Right?
And like, I'm also excited, like, of course, nothing's known, but I would love for you to get to be Spider-Man as a cameo in his game. Like, Spider-Man and Wolverine have such a, I'm sure, Spider-Man and Wolverine have such a brilliant relationship over the years in the comics and cartoons. Wolverine is like the reluctant mentor, Spider-Man as the annoying friend, and like, I can see it in an Insomniac game. And so who knows, maybe, it's written in the stars, but like, it's just cool to see also Insomniac, like, they're the Spider-Man guys, and that was great. But now they're going to get to be the Marvel guys. They're going to get to do more than just Spider-Man.
I hope so.
And that's exciting.
Yeah. And it's like, 'cause I keep pushing, Brian Intihar, the creative director on Spider-Man. I keep pushing him for all my nerdy stuff. I'm like, so no, you guys should do the Moon Knight game. He's like, shut up about Moon Knight. I'm like, no, you guys should do this.
Never.
And you know who should be in the Spider-Man game? Deadpool should be in the Spider-Man game. He's like, Yuri, shut up. Because that's a relationship, also a Spider-Man relationship that I love.
Oh God! And if they could bring back Nolan North as Deadpool,
right?
I mean,
selfishly, I just want to, have Nolan, chase me around a room, that would be so great. But again, with Spider-Man, with Wolverine, I mean, there's so many different things you could do, and unfortunately, they have to only choose a few. Right. You can't build a game with everything in it.
Well, as has been shown with Spider-Man, you don't have to make just one game. So
that's true.
Now, you'd mentioned kind of getting whatever thing together for the trailers for Spider-Man 2 and those sorts of teasers. Do you, I don't know if this is every game or maybe for something as big as this, do you ever have to do like, okay, here's a session purely for trailer lines. We don't have the story and everything hammered out yet, but we need to at least get this much done. And then maybe in 6 weeks or 2 months or whenever it is, like, come on back for the next marathon.
Yeah, they do it in chunks, and then, sometimes they'll do something and refine it, and we throw stuff away. So, I mean, they've been really good about that. If we record something, it's not always set in stone. Like on that first game, there was stuff that they tried out and then found ways to make better later, and we had to, they had to rewrite, and we had to, reshoot some stuff. And to their credit, they spend the time doing that. Instead of just saying, well, we've already recorded, we just got to go with it. They're like, no, we found a way to make this better. Let us make it better. And so we went back, and they'll have to record little pieces for, I have like the brains that go into building, a game, and all of the moving pieces. I can't even begin. And it's, sometimes we're shooting things out of order, and it's like making a movie that way. We're not shooting it, from start to finish. And so so sometimes pieces only end up making sense a little later when I'm like, oh, now I get it. Yeah. I mean, we talked about it. You gave me the background, but now I see how this fits together. So it's exciting.
Have you ever been like, oh, wait, now that this new information is, can I go back and redo a couple of things from...
If it's in the same session, sometimes I will.
Okay.
But I won't... I know they've already got so much on their plate that they don't need actors going, wait a minute, I've got an idea. Could we call everybody back into, let's set a whole new session for, get everybody on the PCAP stage, and we'll redo, because I have an idea. No, that's, they're much smarter than I am, and I will usually leave it to them. Every now and then when we're in the room, if I think of a quip or something like that, 5 minutes later, after we had recorded some lines, I'll be like, guys, could you just, let me just give one, and you can burn it. You can just say, you can smile and go, Yuri, that was brilliant. And then, just throw it in the trash after I'm done if you want to. But just let me get it out of my system.
Yeah.
But I try to pick my battles. Still open. Yeah, exactly. And but I try to pick my battles even on stuff like that.
It makes sense. Yeah, what I'm really excited about with this Spider-Man game is like everyone's gonna have theories, right? Like we knew Venom was coming. We knew, but like major villain, what's the story gonna be? And like I have my theories based on the Ultimate Spider-Man comics and things that happened to
Sure.
Peter in those comics. And like I wonder, are they gonna go that route, that kind of thing? Which obviously can't talk about yet, but it's fun to think about that. With the first Spider-Man game, there was nothing to theorize. Like it was new. We were learning as we got to it. But now we have a world, a brilliant world that Insomniac built that you're going to get to play in. Does it feel different to go back and record for this game than the first one because you have this whole world behind you now from the first two games?
Yeah. I mean, I think, the boots are a little more well worn. They're a little more comfortable in some places. And it is nice to have, the world that we've already created to walk into as opposed to, creating that world from the ground up. And yet, even when we were doing that the first time, there was the world of, of Spider-Man that was already there. It was just them saying, okay, yes, we've got all that. Here's our story in that world. Mm-hmm. And it's there he is. But I know the listeners can't see the statue.
There he is, the giant statue. It's such a cool statue.
It's out of focus and it still looks incredible. That's how you know it's good.
That's how you know.
I have to throw it out of focus. If you saw it up close and sharp, your eyes would explode. Yeah.
I would be able to focus on anything else.
Yeah. Right.
I wanted to ask you, because we didn't ask last time, a little bit about some Spider-Mans that you love, right? There's a plethora of them now, right? We've got the incredible Tom Holland in the MCU. Mm-hmm. We've had some incredible voice actors do him over the years. Mm-hmm. Do you have favorite Spider-Mans that you've seen or like cool Spider-Man moments outside of the ones you've done that you really love?
I mean, yeah, and I grew up, Tobey Maguire was my Spider-Man growing up, and I stand by that.
Yeah.
But the Tom Holland stuff is, has been so great. I will admit, here on your show that I have not seen any of the Amazing Spider-Man, any of the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man.
Me neither.
Somehow it just slipped through, and I keep meaning to go back and just fill that, empty hole in my Spider-Man lore, but I haven't yet. I love Andrew Garfield as an actor. But I haven't gone back. But yeah, the Tom Holland stuff is great. And with this new trailer that dropped, but new, I mean, like a month ago.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, what they've done with, the multiverse and, sort of the ground they've laid and the Spider-Verse, as it were, is they could literally tell any story at this point. Any story. Across characters and worlds and timelines, and they could literally bring in anything. Back, before you would say, oh, well, it's got to be one of these 8 villains, basically, but now they could literally do anything. And it's kind of terrifying. It's really hard to predict. I mean, there are people out there doing it, and I'm sure some of them have gotten it right. Much smarter people than me.
There's a whole industry.
Right, exactly. But I've seen, I watched the Screen Crush, things about, finding all the Easter eggs. But yeah, they could literally tell any story, and I think that's super exciting. And they're not beholden to, oh, we're going to break continuity, or we'll have to retcon this, or we'll have to, they just do it. And then they go, it was a multiverse. Wasn't that fun? And it doesn't affect any of the other stuff that you love. It doesn't break anything. Yeah. Which is very clever.
Right?
It's really brilliant. And like we were at a time where none of this stuff could touch, right? And now the way it's being written, like, it could absolutely be possible that your Spider-Man could show up in the next Spider-Verse movie because they like peek into the video game world. Like any of that is possible, and I think that's really cool. Bringing back Neil Patrick Harris's Spider-Man from the CGM TV show, like any of that is
Christopher
possible.
Daniel Barnes, or like any of that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the old Spider-Man are still active in the industry, and I'm sure any one of them would love to dust that off.
Right. That is, I keep waiting for somebody to call me. But yeah, no, that would be super exciting. I mean, it was exciting enough that even in the Spider-Verse movie, that there were little Easter eggs for our Spider-Man. Earth 1038 Spider-Man is in there. It just is sort of like a little nod, which was super exciting to us because nobody told Insomniac or Sony that I think that they were doing that. So that's nice. And even in the sort of the focus on, Feast, the place where Aunt May works, is, while I don't think it was created in our game, it was definitely focused on. It was definitely like a big thing. And I'm like, was that a nod? I don't know. Yeah. it's cool. It's cool to be part of the larger world, you know.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating to get to see how media interacts with each other in just a different way than it ever did before. There's so much potential for crossover and intermingling, especially like with Sony being so loving about Spider-Man. And like even now with Venom 2 on the horizon, as when this comes out, it'll have already probably aired since it's going to be a little bit before this comes out. But like, I don't know. I love the first Venom movie. It's wacky, it's silly, it's goofy, and I love it. I love everyone's performance in it. But like, to know that maybe someday Tom Holland's Spider-Man will show up in that, or maybe someday that Venom will show up in Spider-Verse. Like, it's just such a rich world. Or like getting to Tony Todd's Venom to meet the Venom from the movies. Like, any of that is just possible now, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, agreed.
And I mean, given a lot of what we've been talking about, we are in an age where a character, like even one person's portrayal of a character, will hop media or go to a bunch of different places. I mean, I would imagine you voice Sasuke in both the show and the video games as well. Do you ever run into points where it's like, but wait, you're not getting the character right? Because there's so much lore, there's so much everything. And I know we're like, everything can go, but...
Yeah, it's funny. It's hard for me to be, critical of anybody else's Spider-Man, that's for sure. Because anyone, like they say, anyone can wear the mask.
Right, exactly.
And it's, and everybody's telling different stories, and I love that you can do that. And, and then of course, from a fan perspective, you love what you love, and you're going to hate what you hate too. So, sometimes you will not appreciate a crossover, or, when your story or your character, because as a fan, you feel a certain ownership, despite the fact you don't have any, true ownership in that. You should not be telling, the creatives how to make your favorite stuff.
Right.
But sometimes you're going to like it and sometimes you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the joy of the crossover is it also becomes, you get a lot of this person's vision, this person's version, not just the actor portraying them, but the director of the games or of the show or of the producers or whomever. And it is interesting to see, even if you have the same actor playing a character, they go into a lot of different hands over the years. Yeah.
And, speaking of vision, like they like low-key dropped Star Wars Visions on Disney Plus, like this last week. I've been waiting for it, and there was no announcement. I'm like, oh wait, I can watch that now, which is sort of the Japanese creators. It's the Star Wars universe filtered through Japanese animated creators' visions, and I've been super excited to see that. My friend Bob Okazaki, we know each other from having worked on Afro Samurai together.
Yeah.
Like when I saw, before it dropped, they had like a little sort of, teaser thing talking to the creators. And I didn't even know Bob was working on it. And I know he's such a huge nerd that I immediately texted him afterwards and I'm like, this has got to be a dream come true for you. He was like, yes, I can't wait for you to see it. And it just dropped this last week. And, I cannot wait to see that version of the Star Wars universe, which we've never really seen before that I'm aware of,
Yeah, I love
filtered through an anime lens because all that stuff was so protected before,
And it's funny because so much of Star Wars mythos is Seven Samurai and is
Hidden Fortress. Yeah.
It's that like reverberation back and forth, and I love to see it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it's really cool to see when things that influenced other things get to then go back and influence it again. It's, we've talked a lot about Marvel stuff. We've seen it over the years with Marvel. Marvel did a bunch of anime shows. They did an X-Men one. They did, a bunch of different stuff. And like, of course, there was a famous Japanese Spider-Man TV show for so long.
Yes.
Live action, where he had a
Which
car
is
and
nuts
a robot.
Oh
my God,
And a machine gun. Yeah, like it was, you gotta see.
I remember watching that on like early YouTube in college and just like, what?
I was just watching Turkish Spider-Man look it up on YouTube. It is, by the way, Turkish Spider-Man is a villain and he fights Captain America. And in this one, I'm trying to think of what the name of the movie is, but yeah, he's a villain and he fights Captain America, or whatever name they give Captain America in the Turkish universe, and Santo, the Mexican wrestler detective. And some of these mashups
found the movie
are
poster. Oh my God.
Extraordinary. And they don't give an F about, getting sued by, or maybe it was long enough ago that they didn't. And it is remarkable to see that these things even exist.
Yeah.
It's pretty great. Yeah, for those of you out there who aren't aware, look it up.
It's a 1973 Turkish film. It has a Wikipedia page, therefore it can be found.
Right.
Somehow.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I need some time with this.
I have to say, Yuri, as a fan of your work and getting to see you do all this cool stuff, and like last time we spoke, which wasn't even that long ago, like it could have just been Spider-Man. You could just be Spider-Man. You could just be Sasuke. But like the fact that you're now He-Man, you were Superman, you get to do all this cool stuff. Is there anything left on your vision board that you haven't gotten to do that you're like, this is a thing I'd love to jump into, or a world that you'd love to be a part of that you haven't yet?
You know, being a nerd with deep roots in all genre stuff, yeah, it is a very deep well. And, I could just start, listing properties that I love and things that I don't think there will ever be an end to, hey, you know what I'd really love to do is this.
Yeah.
And I did get to, as far as, other things dropping since the last time we talked, there's a show that I did, a live action show a couple of years ago called Orbital Redux.
Yes.
Which I think we may have talked about, but it wasn't available for viewing. And just to, to give the listeners background, it was, 2-3 years ago, we did this live action, live performed sci-fi show for Legendary's digital streaming network, where each episode, it was there were weekly episodes. We performed the entire thing live. It was all edited on the fly live. Not on the fly, we'd rehearsed it. But all the music was performed by a band on the stage while we were doing it. All the visual effects were happening right there as we were doing it. So if something blew up on the ship, it was really, we had rigged it to blow up on the ship.
Wow.
And it was the highest tightrope walk that I had ever walked as a performer. Because when we went live, like it was start to finish, you got to figure out a way to get through it. And to make it more difficult, they threw in an interactive component where people who were in the chat watching could sometimes affect the course of the show. So we had to have multiple storylines prepared and rehearsed as the actors for depending on what they chose. And then that would sometimes cause rewrites for future episodes based on what happened in the episodes. And I've never been prouder of a show, and I was heartbroken that because of the platform, not a lot of people got to see it. But while it was performed live, we were, recording on all the, 10 or so cameras that we had running from, various vantage points. And so what we did is we took that footage and we cut each episode down to like the best possible version of that episode. And we said, okay, look, if it was just a gimmick, the live component, and the episodes don't stand on their own, we'll let it be what it was. But if these episodes stand on their own, even now, without that live component, we want to get it out to the world. And we edited them down, we remastered, some of the audio, and we watched them, in a movie theater. We did like a screening.
Oh, cool.
And they even stand up on the big screen. We were like, nope, we gotta, this has got to get out there. It's worth, still telling this story. And so we ended up partnering with Dust, which is for those who don't know, and it's not super well known, but Dust is a sci-fi aggregator. It's sort of like what Shudder is to horror, Dust is to sci-fi. And so we partnered with them, and they were like, yes, we love this hard sci-fi, and let's do it. And so all the episodes and some of the behind the scenes stuff, how we went into that live stuff, is all now on Dust. And if I could ask your listeners, the one big favor is go watch this show. I'm so proud of it. It was such an epic undertaking, and I still can't believe that we did it. You can download the Dust app. You can go to their YouTube thing. You can go to watchdust.tv and then look for Orbital Redux. It is, just go, please watch it. I'm so in love with it, and I wish that we could do more of that kind of thing. It was just exciting storytelling. So, and I'm such a huge sci-fi fan that I'll always love genre stuff. Like I'll always want to make over any kind of highfalutin Oscar type thing, which of course I'm an actor, will do anything. But what I love and what always gets me super excited is when it's a sci-fi thing, when it's a horror thing, when it's a a fantasy thing. I just love that so much, and that it's an added bonus when I'm working if it gets to be one of those things.
Yeah.
And so this hit on so many levels, and I'm just happy that people can finally see it.
Yeah, because stories are stories, and if you can tell them in fun, cool, interesting ways, that's to me, that's what genre stories are and can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Genre stories have always been a place to experiment with the biggest of themes and the most, if you hit a theme over the head in your thing, or you're trying to teach a lesson or you're trying to comment on something in the world, if you're just trying to do that, it's people tune out immediately.
Yeah.
But if you put it in space, you can get away with things that normally you wouldn't be able to, or
I'll watch anything if you put it in space.
Space. Right, exactly. Space.
Budgetary committee in space.
I'd watch the shit out of that.
Right?
6 seasons in a movie, give it to me. But yes, people can absolutely find Orbital Redux through a lot of easy ways. OrbitalRedux.com has a link that'll take you straight to the dust page for it as well.
Yeah,
Thank you for knowing that.
I haven't gotten to watch all of it, but what I've seen of it is just so brilliant. And again, as a fan, it's fun to see you do something where I can see your face. Like it's just so different from all of the other stuff that you've done. And it's we're talking about your black box theater stuff, early days, and it's cool to see you come back
kind of like
to
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool to see you come back around to that stuff. Definitely go check it out. It's absolutely worth watching. Yuri,
Agreed.
You are a delight. I'm happy to have you come back on the show as many times as you want. The third chair always waiting for you.
I feel like you're going to have so many things going on that, just every couple of weeks, be like, what just got announced?
What dropped now?
I hope to be able to keep living up to that description.
Before we wrap up, I would be remiss really quick if we hadn't asked you what games you've been playing. I know that.
Thank you. I was going to ask.
We knew you. We recommended some stuff. I know you've been excited about some stuff, and I know you don't always have the time. But have you found any cool short form stuff that you've jumped into that you've loved?
I finally started playing. Again, self promotion. I didn't mean for this to be. I finally started playing Call of the Sea from Out of the Blue games recently, and while I am stuck on one of the puzzles and have kind of let it go for a couple of weeks because I got frustrated, I should probably just go to the internet and look for answers. But I'm super enjoying myself. It's a beautiful game. It's a calm game where things aren't constantly trying to kill me, which I think, as I mentioned before, is just I don't gravitate to those games that much anymore, except those rare occasions when I just need to dive into some J-horror game just to freak myself out.
This is for this, it's...
And that's for that. Yeah, exactly. I'm watching Midnight Mass on Netflix and I'm loving it. It's the new Mike Flanagan series. Yeah. It's and I just started it recently, and I'm watching that. New season of Doom Patrol just came out. I'm excited. Yeah.
So excited! That show is so good and so overlooked.
It's no business being that good, and yet,
I know.
I mean, it's Doom Patrol.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I get it. It's there's some pacing. Early on, if you don't already know and you're not into it immediately, some of that stuff is paced really slowly, and kudos to them for trusting the show to do that. But yeah, no, there's so much to watch, and I got to get my my Ted Lasso hit every week to feel better about the world.
Yep.
And, yeah, me
that
too.
That show is so. I love that it just puts positivity forward. It puts therapy forward.
Here.
It puts complex relationships forward. Also, the Jewish representation of the incredible Roy Kent. And
yes,
just that actor is so good.
I am there for that. No. Yeah, that's I know. It's the best. We Roy Kent a lot in our household.
My curmudgeon footballer, and I love him.
yes. Oh, and they deserve the Emmys they got. But I'm loving also Only Murders in the Building on Hulu.
I've been watching that too. I thought no one else was watching it. Me and my spouse are obsessed.
So there's. I would love to compare it to another show, but I can't think of another show that's doing that does exactly what they do. It's great.
Yeah. And also, I love Steve Martin and Martin Short in literally anything.
Oh, God, yeah.
And then and the fact that Selena Gomez, who I knew was a talented actress, can keep up with them and just go beat for beat. It's listen to Yuri. Watch Only Murders in the Building. It's so good on Hulu.
And listen to Matt. You're listening to their show anyway. Why wouldn't you trust him?
We're podcasters. We know when we're being made fun of. It's great.
Oh man, let me tell you, as a podcaster, all the jabs at podcasting are so good.
It's good.
Yes.
It's
so
great.
good.
Yuri, thank you again so much for being here.
Thank you for being here.
You are a delight.
Always my pleasure.
You're welcome to come anytime.
Thank you.
We're going to do a wrap up, and then I think we're going to have you sign off as Prince Adam / He-Man, if you would, for us this time. But thank you, everyone, for listening. Yuri, I'm sure we'll be back at some point, and we have so much to discuss with him as he's doing such incredible work. But if you want to dive into the conversation, tell us what your favorite Yuri moment is. He has so many. Reply on Twitter or on Facebook or wherever you find us. Tell us what your favorite Yuri role is. What's something you think it'd be cool to see Yuri in? Like, let's just get the internet talking.
Yeah, Yuri as Moon Knight. I'm putting it out there.
Yuri as Moon Knight. Hashtag.
Oh wait, no, I missed out. Well, no, there can be many versions of Moon Knight.
Animated.
Right? Animated.
That's the joy of it.
Right.
So many.
Yep.
And then, of course, if you want to interact with us more, we're all over social media. You can email us at funandgamespod@gmail.com. If you have any guest suggestions, topic suggestions, please let us know. We are, of course, on the Certain Point of View podcast network, certainpov.com. We have a permanent invite link to our Discord server where you can find all of the awesome shit that we do. Geoff, am I forgetting anything?
I don't think so. Yeah, we are Fun and Games Pod across all the social media, on Gmail, as you said, Discord, certainpov.com, and you can check out all the other incredible shows that are going on there, because there's so many great stories and there's so many great conversations to be had, and this is a conversation. Thank you for being a part of it. I'm Geoff Moonen.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon, and if He-Man or Prince Adam could say happy gaming and send us into the ether, we would appreciate it.
By the power of Grayskull! You're listening to the Fun and Games Podcast with Geoff and Matt. What was the thing you wanted me to say at the end of that?
Happy gaming.
Happy gaming.
Happy gaming!
Hey.
Oh, hey, Geoff.
What's going on, guys?
Oh, talking about Superman.
Oh, cool. I could talk about Superman.
I could talk some more about Superman.
We know.
I'll bet a few people would want to get in on this.
I'm down.
You know it.
That sounds like fun. I'll do it.
Cool, let's do it. We can call the show Men of Steel.
And you can find it at certainpov.com.
Or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yay.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.